This Buick Rendezvous.
GM let her pick her favorite color and interior. To Christy, it rides.
Live from the CBS2 Information Network, this is breaking news.
Good morning, Michael Pomeranz along with Lisa Hill. Some breaking news to report. You're looking at a live picture of the World Trade Center where we have just received word that a plane apparently has crashed into the tower, one of the two towers. At this point, we don't have further information regarding the type of plane, the extent of injuries.
Right.
Obviously, it looks quite severe. We don't know about the people who may have been in the building or in that plane as well. We have several crews on their way to the scene right now.
Right. Marcella Palmer, who's with us at CBS2 News this morning, every morning, is on her way literally right now. And as soon as she gets set up, we're going to go to her live and get them information. Actually, we understand she's on the telephone. Marcella, what can you tell us?
Yeah, we're right here. We're trying to get away.
Oh, our signal just went out. Okay. You're looking live, folks, tuning in to what has apparently happened. A plane has crashed into one of the World Trade Towers. We're not sure if that's building number 1 or 2, but obviously a lot of black smoke. We don't know what size plane that was, whether it was a Cessna, a Piper, or even larger. Here's a close-up view as one of our Metro cams zooms in on the actual scene. You can see that plane has definitely affected multiple floors, at least 1, 2, possibly 3 floors and further. Apparently there's smoke on the right side of the building as well as on the back side. Now we're again trying to get in contact with Marcella Palmer. We're sending numerous crews to this story. This is a major, major story that is happening live right
You're
now.
looking at it for the first time, as are we, so bear with us as we try to piece together exactly what's happened. Again, these are reports that we're getting now that a plane is in fact what had crashed into the World Trade Center. We, from what we see, can't really imagine it being much else, but these are, again, only reports as you look live at the scene.
Michael, our producer, is just telling me that we understand it's possibly a 737 jet that has crashed into tower number 1 of the World Trade Center building. Possibly a 737 jet that just crashed into tower number 1 of the World Trade Center. We understand. Go ahead.
We're just hearing now that the debris obviously falling to the streets below. We're gathering some information. Folks familiar with the financial district know how congested it is down there, how tight the streets are, how narrow the area to navigate is for drivers as well as for pedestrians. So quite a scene down there right now toward the financial district. Again, you said Tower 1?
Yes, Tower number 1, World Trade Center Tower number 1. Obviously the upper floors there. We're not sure where that plane was originating from. We're not sure if it was trying to land, which airport. Of course, we're working on that. You still see some fire, fresh fire from another part of the building there as we zoom in on our cameras there.
We have Marcella Palmer now joining us with a little bit more information. Marcella, where are you and what can you tell us? Marcella, you there? Okay, apparently we're still trying to establish connection with Marcella Palmer as she works the scene. You could hear in the background there, though, some of the chaos, as you would imagine, would be going on in that area. Heavy area for commuters, heavy area for commerce.
And not to mention the thousands of people who work at the World Trade Center. I'm sure it's sheer chaos there. We're unsure how many passengers were on that plane, how many people are affected at the building. As you said, Michael, debris was seen falling to the street below, which makes sense considering that a possible 737 jet may have crashed into World Trade Center Tower number 1. This just happened, folks. You're looking live at our cameras at the billowing black smoke from multiple floors. We understand, I'm sure, rescue crews, the mayor, everybody's on their way down there to find out more details on this. And we're placing as many calls as we can to find out more details. And of course, we're going to stay on this story and bring you the details as soon as we get them.
Taking a look right now, if we could, just from the Associated Press, they're coming across with bulletins now confirming that it was a plane that has crashed into the World Trade Center. Again, this is according to the Associated Press as we gather our own people down there at the scene, taking a look at what's going on in front of you. You're seeing it, folks, for the very first time, as are we. A reminder that what we're able to see from our fixed-mounted cameras at points all across the city are just what you're seeing right there, that apparently, from the reports, again, by the Associated Press and from what you're seeing, that a plane, possibly a 737 jet, hit Tower 1 of the World Trade Center in the financial district. Reports that debris falling to the ground. And that's where we are with the story right now as we continue to effort some more information for you. We have Marcella Palmer working the scene. You heard just a moment ago that we were unable to establish clear connection with her, but you were probably able to hear through her cell phone that there's quite a bit of commotion.
Sure, and we have Chopper 2 on the way as well. Jim Smith is flying there as we speak to try to get a closer look and to see what else is going on there. You can imagine the entire buildings, all of World Trade Center is being evacuated immediately, and as well as the area around there. So traffic, as you mentioned, Michael, of course, is going to be chaotic for the rest of the day, no doubt. Again, folks, we're looking live at an unbelievable scene, an absolutely unbelievable scene, harkening back to the bombing, of course. This is not a bomb. We understand that a plane, an actual airplane, has crashed into the World Trade Center, Tower number 1, building number 1. As you look at an eerie shot there of the Empire State Building to your right and the World Trade Center to the back, with the black smoke billowing out of the top stories of the World Trade Center Tower number 1.
Quite a sizable hole, as is quite apparent there. Unable at this point to see any pieces of plane or anything that would indicate to us that it was in fact a plane. Again, we are going on reports, and clearly up at that level, it's hard to imagine it could be anything else at all. The reports of the debris falling to the ground. We have working hard right now to talk with the FAA, the Port Authority, to get any information to you as far as what plane, what type of plane, who's involved, how many people in the building. Marcella Palmer working it from the ground.
It obviously, though, Michael, is a large plane, if indeed it was. I mean, that's what we're getting confirmation on that, because you can look and see how many sides of this building were damaged, and the smoke is amazing. All looks like, apparently, at least 3 sides, if not all 4 sides of the World Trade Center building have been damaged by this collision. Unbelievable scene, folks. I'm sure they're bringing back memories of about, 1990 World Trade Center bombing. We're getting somebody. We have somebody on the phone. We're working on it. Okay.
Our information center is now working on contacting somebody on the phone. We don't want to add any more confusion to the mix. However, we are under the advisement now that CNN has spoken to who they believe was a witness who has told them that it was a twin-engine plane that perhaps hit the World Trade Center. It's a witness report only. I want to emphasize that. That's the story that CNN is able to help us compile at this point. But as you can see, a very, very fresh and horrible scene as the smoke just billows from the top section of the Tower 1 of the World Trade Center.
110-story building is what Tower 1 is, and you can see it's obviously on the upper levels of Tower 1. We're trying to effort information, folks. This just happened. Again, as Michael just mentioned, CNN is quoting a witness who says that he or she saw a twin-engine plane flying right into the Trade Center. Unfortunately, we do not know at this point where that twin-engine plane or where that airplane, we're not sure if it's a twin-engine, 737, may have originated from, where it was heading, which of our 3 airports. Obviously, this is going to affect airport traffic as well, as the entire city comes to a standstill right now as we look live at an apparent plane that has crashed into the World Trade Center.
So we're giving you every possible angle that we can come up with as we have fixed cameras all across the city, taking a live look. We're looking at it along with you for the very first time, the heavy black smoke pouring from the top of this building. Reports now that a plane of some type has impacted the World Trade Center. Crews always on the way, working as hard as we can now to get you more information.
All right, we're jotting down notes as we get them. Do we have that person ready? Okay. We're efforting, folks. What I'm talking to my producers as well is trying to get information. As we're efforting information, we're trying to reach witnesses who may be there live at the scene and able to give us a first-hand account. Witnesses, we do understand from the Associated Press, reported hearing a huge explosion. Also more eyewitnesses saying they saw a small commuter plane crash into the building. So we're getting 2 accounts there, Michael, from witnesses, according to the Associated Press, who saw a small plane. So perhaps that's indeed what it was. It doesn't matter. The extensive damage has been done. I'm not sure, again, of any injuries, albeit there have got to be several, obviously, from looking at this. We're trying to get that again. Marcella Palmer on her way. Talked with her by cell phone. Unfortunately, her cell phone got disconnected. Go ahead.
We're just saying that we're now getting reports from the Associated Press that witnesses reported hearing and seeing that huge explosion, heavy smoke, as you see there, billowing from the top, and several witness accounts now kind of siding with the CNN version of the story that it was a twin-engine plane. Not to say that we know for certain. We don't want to make any assumptions, especially this early on, as you take a look at it along with us as we're piecing together the information for you as it's developing. Understand right now, though, we do have somebody joining us on the phone.
Yes, Paul Schwinger is on the phone live to tell us what he saw. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
Go ahead, take it away. Where were you and what did you see?
Well, I was in my apartment pretty much right under the flight path of this plane in the village. and I heard this really, really loud noise go by, and I thought it was an Air Force jet on display. So I looked right out the window, and I saw this twin-engine plane fly right over my house, and it was losing altitude. And then I saw the impact and the explosion, this huge ball of flame. And the plane looked either like a 737 or an Airbus.
737 or an Airbus. Okay,
Yeah.
and I understand you're an airplane aficionado?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we mean by that?
Well, I couldn't really tell because by the time I looked up, I saw two engines, and it was, a smaller style plane.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I looked up, it was already right over my house and just in front of me, so I couldn't tell the difference between the two.
All right, 737 or an Airbus, according to Paul Schwanger. Now, you heard a loud boom. You heard the boom?
Yes, I heard the boom, and I saw the ball of smoke go up. But that was the impact with the World Trade Center. I didn't hear a boom before that. I just heard very loud jet engine noise.
Okay.
Probably because it was so low.
Right, losing altitude.
And it was losing altitude at the time.
Oh, gosh.
Sky's looking very clear, too. Paul, we understand that you're something of a flight aficionado.
Yes.
So you have some experience.
Right.
What does your experience tell you may have entered into what you're looking at here with such clear skies?
Well, possibly some form of engine failure or control failure. Right.
Do you ever see any type of air traffic in and around your area that...
Well, routinely, this is a routine pattern to come into LaGuardia, to fly south over Manhattan and then out over the bay and then up towards LaGuardia. So this is a routine pattern, but they're never supposed to be that low. And I would find it hard to believe that it was a navigation failure in these clear skies.
Paul, we're hearing that to join in and to confirm what you saw, that a vice president from CNN said he reported seeing a small plane crash into Tower Number 1 as well. And ironically, that is the same tower that the World Trade Center bombing happened in so many years ago that everybody clearly remembers. How about flight rules? Do you have any idea about flight rules?
I'm not sure. It was following the proper, as far as I could see from my house, it was following the proper path to come into LaGuardia.
Okay, coming from LaGuardia, right. All right, Paul, we appreciate your call, and hang loose, though.
Hey, Paul, one quick question now before you go, Paul. Have you been over near the scene
You can't see
to see anything that's gone on the ground?
No, I can only see the smoke and the flame. Well, just basically the smoke in the air right now, right in front of me.
Mm-hmm. And we see two sides of the World Trade Center definitely affected by this crash. Black smoke continuing to billow out there.
But I hear a lot of sirens going in.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
sure you do. And your estimation, what type of plane did
Either an
you report
Airbus A320 style or a Boeing 737.
Okay.
Where do you get your knowledge from? How much time do you have in a pilot?
Oh, it was
seat?
another
Oh, no. Okay.
explosion.
Explosions, multiple explosions, ladies and gentlemen. We just saw another explosion. Obviously,
We're just watching it again. It's the first time. This is
the other tower, ladies and gentlemen. Another explosion at Tower Number 2 of the World Trade Center just happened live on our air.
the first that we had heard, the impact only affecting Tower 1, but as our producers and reporting staff in the field is telling us, and you can see now to the left of your screen, there is fire in the second
lower the
tower.
camera just a little bit. You can see right at the bottom of the TV screen, billowing smoke from a bomb or explosion. We do not know if it's a bomb. I'm speaking out of turn here. A second explosion that just happened. The first we understand was from an airplane. The second we have no idea.
No idea at all at this point what has triggered it. If we could take maybe a wider shot to give us just a different vantage point, just to try to gain a little bit of perspective. And there you can see the situation.
Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. We're in shock as much as you are.
It can't be put into words, and clearly you are looking at it as we are seeing it, as it's developing. We have no confirmation other than Associated Press reports and CNN, and as well as our crews now, that a plane did hit Tower 1, and moments ago you saw the explosions in Tower 2, and at this point no word on the cause there, no word on casualties. This is happening just within the last 30 minutes, the initial impact into Tower 1, so you can understand why it is information is slow to gather as emergency crews are racing to the scene.
And not that we needed the confirmation because we witnessed it live on our screen, but the Associated Press confirming that an explosion has happened at World Trade Center Tower Number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, unbelievable. We don't know what this is involving, how it's happened, why it's happened. Another explosion, we're just told. We couldn't see it on our screen, however.
What looks to be, I'm not sure if I'm seeing this clearly. My producers may be able to help me, but you can see shards of glass and other debris raining down, and particularly from Tower 2. I'm told that we have another witness on the phone, Don McLennan.
No, it's John McLennan.
John, I'm sorry. Tell me what it is you saw. Did you just witness
I'm at 200 Park Avenue, the MetLife building. I looked south, and I just happened, I heard the plane go over our building far lower than it should have been and headed straight for the World Trade Center. And I thought, I couldn't figure out where it would, which airport it could be headed for with that route. And then I saw it actually heading below the top of the World Trade Center, and it just hit. And it was a two-engine passenger jet. There was a ball of fire, and you've seen the rest.
Okay, we just are getting told that second explosion we just saw was another plane?
I actually saw a second ball of flame, and that might have been, I couldn't see something hit because there's a building blocking that part of the view.
Okay.
John, were you able to see any type of identification?
No, it was a big two-engine jetliner, and that's all I know.
Are you able at all to see the street below in the area?
No, we're up at 42nd Street. I mean, I have a great view of the top half of the top quarter of the World Trade Center, but that's it.
Okay.
As we're looking live now at the scene, we should tell you that approximately 40,000 people work in the World Trade Centers between the two towers, each building 110 stories tall. And joining us now on the phone again is John McLennan. He works at 200 Park Avenue and has witnessed some of this unfold.
As have we, just before 9 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. Hello? Just before, John, you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Just before 9 o'clock this morning, an unbelievable event happened, catastrophic event. A plane crashed into the World Trade Center Tower number 1. Not more than 3 minutes ago, a second explosion happened at Tower number 2. We're being told that it could have been another plane, although what we saw was just an explosion. Mm-hmm. And again, Michael, you said 40,000 people work at World Trade Center. Unbelievable, unbelievable. We're efforting, reporters on the scene are trying to get down there, Marcella Palmer namely, as many others that we have called in and heading down there. We're trying to get people who have been eyewitnesses to this to call us so that we can hear what they know and what they've seen. We're hearing that it could have been a Boeing 737 or an Airbus from one of our witnesses. On the first tower, we're not still sure about what exactly caused that explosion on the second World Trade Center Tower building. Unbelievable event, ladies and gentlemen, as you look live at 9:07 this morning.
We have no confirmation on the injuries, as Lisa mentioned. We have no knowledge as to how many people involved. However, our producers are telling us now that we do have some videotape of the second plane, and you can see it there on the left making impact with Tower 2. And from our vantage point, clearly difficult to tell what type of plane that is, but it's a horrific scene. And
all right, we just been told also, Michael, sorry, the New York Stock Exchange is being evacuated, as is, I'm sure, much of Wall Street, if not all of it, as much as possible. But the New York Stock Exchange has suspended trading for the moment as everyone tries to get out of that area. We did see that videotape clearly showed a second airplane, ladies and gentlemen, crashing into World Trade Center Tower number 2. We are efforting as much information as soon as we get it. We're passing it on. It's an unbelievable day. Here it is again, a replay, videotape. You clearly see another plane going into the World Trade Center. Ladies and gentlemen, it's hard to fathom another accident.
It's indescribable as to why any of this has happened. We can't put words in the FAA's mouth or any flight tower information, but you're seeing what we're seeing, and on what seemingly is a relatively clear New York day. Yeah. 2 plane impacts. One you just witnessed there, saw on tape a moment ago. Explosions just 18 minutes apart. Oh. The first one before 9, the second one.
Is this our Chopper 2 picture?
Not long after 9. Yeah, this is I believe, picture from Chopper 2. Jim Smith, are you up there?
Yes, we are, Michael and Lisa. We have been forced to stay about 5 miles away from the World Trade Center. A flight restriction has been put in place, but right now we are looking at live pictures. The tower on the left, that is tower number 1. And we can tell you that we can still see the flames and smoke coming out of that. as well as the tower to the right. That is tower number 2. You could see the damage to that about the middle of the building. Just incredible what we are witnessing here from about 5 miles away from the World Trade Center.
Jim, I don't know if you were able to see the videotape that we showed moments ago, and if you have any information at all as to what type of plane and what carrier may be involved.
Well, we did not have that as of yet, Michael. Unfortunately, we were unable to see that video. My pilot, Ed Baker, is right now talking with air traffic control. We're trying to determine what exactly happened here, what type of plane, to be exact, was involved here, as well as the carrier involved.
We're showing people again that videotape that was shot just moments ago of that second plane making impact into the second of the trade centers. Again, both 110 stories tall, 40,000 people working between the two. Jim, from your vantage point, and I know you had mentioned that you're 5 miles away, are you able to see any activity on the ground?
Unfortunately, at this point, Michael, it'd be very difficult to make that activity from the ground. Right now, you're looking at a shot of lower Manhattan, and unfortunately, we can't determine what has happened on the ground, what type of damage has been done to the other buildings surrounding the World Trade Center.
Again, yeah, right. And people we understand the evacuation is undergoing at the stock exchange. They're trying to get the people out of there. Obviously, no word from the mayor on this. Obviously, he's trying to gather information, as are we. Again, trying to send Marcella Palmer down there, but no doubt traffic is quite chaotic right now as we try to get down there. Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking live from Chopper 2 at an unbelievable sight. If you're just tuning in, 2 planes have crashed into the World Trade Center, both in Tower number 1 and 18 minutes after that, Tower number 2, and we saw it here live on CBS2. No word on casualties, no word on injuries for that matter, no word on why or how this happened. We understand the plane may have been heading towards LaGuardia or originating. Yeah,
Details are beginning to trickle into our newsroom now, and Marcia Kramer, joining us with some further information. Marcia, what do you know?
In our newsroom.
Well, Michael, as you know, things are really chaotic at the present time. There are several things that we do know. Obviously, you've already shown pictures of 2 planes that hit the World Trade Center 18 minutes apart. Witnesses are telling us that they heard and they felt the reverberation of the crash as much as 200 yards away from the crash site. NYU Beekman Downtown Hospital, which is the nearest hospital to the scene, has been put on alert. A spokesman there told us right now it is total chaos. There are waiting casualties and security people are all over the scene. Also, there's speculation about what caused the flight, the crash. There is some speculation that it could have been a problem with the air traffic control system. Others speculate that it could be some kind of terrorist attack. It's too confusing and people just don't know what's happening right now. Also, the stock exchange is being evacuated and most of the buildings in lower Manhattan are also being evacuated. Now, there's no immediate word on the injuries or fatalities in this twin disaster. Again, it happened just before 9 a.m. and then again 18 minutes later. The towers, you should remember, were struck by bombers in February of 1993. The plane was coming in low and it looked like a hit at a slight angle, said one witness, a CNN vice president. This is according to the CNN network. Now, witnesses also say that large holes are visible in the side of the 110-story building landmark towers. The tops of the twin towers were obscured by the smoke. Thousands of pieces of what appeared to be office paper came drifting over Brooklyn about 3 miles from Tower 1, this according to another witness. The center bombing on February 26, 1993, killed 6 people and injured more than 1,000 others. In 1945, an Army Air Corps B-25, a twin-engine bomber, crashed into the 79th floor of the Empire State Building in dense fog. We're also told that witnesses report that there were 2 explosions that were about 18 minutes apart. I can also tell you that the mayor's office is having an emergency meeting. You can expect that they will be convening at the emergency command tower, which is at 7 World Trade Center, right across from the scene. That's supposed to be bomb-proof and shatterproof, and they have a headquarters there on the 7th floor. They will probably be monitoring this crisis from that area. Again, Beekman Downtown Hospital has been put on alert. There are waiting casualties, and security is at the scene. That's all the news we have right now. Back to you in the studio.
Marcia, stay with us just a second. If Jim Smith and Chopper 2 could do me a favor and hold this live picture that you're seeing now of the scene. 2 plane crashes, one just before 9 o'clock, the other just moments after. We're hearing, Marcia, from the Associated Press that the FBI is investigating reports of a plane hijacking before this crash. Have you heard anything on your end?
We haven't heard anything yet, but you know, the fact that it see, the thing is that there are two things that happen when you have two crashes 18 minutes apart. It can be one of two things. It can be something that was planned by a terrorist group, or it can be just that the air traffic control system completely crashed. This is going to take a lot of investigating. It's too early to rush to judgment. Right now, I think the major concern for most people here in New York City is getting the people out of the building and treating the casualties. That's why New York City hospitals have been put on alert. I can guarantee you that after NYU downtown is, evaluate some of the injuries, they will be fanned out to other places in New York City. Bellevue Hospital has a major trauma center. That's not too far away. And all of the emergency medical service ambulances are also on alert. Remember, when there was the prior crash, there were 1,000 injuries. So it's going to take a lot of hospitals, a lot of doctors and nurses to deal with this crisis.
We still see debris falling. Now, do we want to go to Chopper 2 or to our eyewitness next? Is Wake Shaw still there? Not yet. Mr. Shaw?
Yes?
Wake Shaw, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Good morning. And what can you tell us? Where were you and what did you see?
I'm standing on the roof of my building in the Lower East Side, and I had rushed up here to see what was on the news, and I couldn't believe it. And suddenly, a very large jumbo, which might have been an Airbus with navy blue and bright red markings, which might have been an American, some sort of American plane, just suddenly came diving into the building, which was just terrifying because you could see it happening, and it just headed right for the building, which seems to be quite a coincidence.
It certainly is.
I want to take a moment to remind people, it clearly shouldn't bear too much reiteration, but the New York Stock Exchange has been evacuated. That entire area is an area to avoid, the financial district, Lower Manhattan. Clearly a problem area. It can't be overstated. The smoke billowing from both towers.
Oh my God.
What do you see? You see the smoke?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Are you able to see something that we're not able to see on our monitor right now?
No, I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with this.
Okay. But you're not able to see anybody on the ground there, Ms. Shaw, huh?
No, I can't. I can't.
All right. We appreciate your calling very much. That's right. We want people to warn people to stay away. And Michael, you've got...
We have a word of a couple of security issues, apparently. Marcia Kramer in the newsroom keeping us up to date with some developments from that end. Marcia?
Situation like this happens, what the city does is go into its emergency command center, and they have a procedure that's been in place for some time since the World Trade Center bombing originally that allows them to deal with crises like this. They have major security people that respond to that scene. It's not only emergency response people, but you'll have FBI, members of the Joint Terrorist Task Force, the New York City Police Department, the New York City Fire Department, and others who are expert in determining whether this was a terrorist attack or just an accident. I can also tell you that as a precautionary measure, the United Nations, which is on the East River, and it is also a tall glass structure which might be in a flight path going to Kennedy Airport and LaGuardia Airport, the UN has now been evacuated as a precautionary measure. Also, again, the stock exchange and most of the buildings in Lower Manhattan are also being evacuated. There's no word right now whether Mayor Giuliani has evacuated City Hall and he has moved to the emergency command center. Again, the New York City Police, New York City FBI office, and others are on the scene. I'm told by witnesses that there are security people all over the scene down there, but again, what they're trying to do is find a way to evacuate the people who are injured, to get the injured out, to get the people who are not injured out of the building, and to evacuate both towers of the World Trade Center. That's all we have right now. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Marcia, you mentioned that the FBI is looking into it. How long do you think it's going to take them to determine this? It's a matter of a phone call, isn't it? Or is it? Because we can call LaGuardia Airport, we can ask them, what about your flight plan? Who was scheduled to land? Who was scheduled to take off? Or not? How difficult is that going to be by, this morning?
Well, it's a little bit, it's probably very hard to get information right now for several reasons. For one thing, the Port Authority, which runs the airports, actually is has offices in the World Trade Center, so it might be a little difficult for them to have information. But what they do have is a tower at Kennedy Airport and that controls the traffic for Kennedy, LaGuardia, and Newark airports. They can very quickly pull up their radar, and they can go as far away as Boston to pull up the radar from Boston to see if there are any unusual flight plans or any unusual planes that show up on the radar screen, and they can back. They can do that pretty quickly, but again, the FBI, possibly even the Secret Service, would be called in on this to try to find out what's going on. Remember, it's a manpower issue. You need to get as many people as possible. Now, I can also tell you, Lisa, that Mayor Giuliani is supposed to speak very shortly. He's going to be speaking from Park Place and Church Street. That's fairly near where the crash site happened. The mayor will be speaking and telling us exactly what he knows up to this point.
All right, Marcia, thanks very much. Jim Smith, are you still with us? Obviously,
yeah,
taking
Michael.
pictures there. I didn't know if we had your microphone up. Can you talk a little bit about the flight rules and what you're used to seeing there in the way of flight traffic?
Yeah, Michael, first off, we can tell you that it was the south side of the World Trade Centers that were struck, just to give you some perspective. Those are the sides that face out towards New York Bay. Now, I have my pilot, Ed Baker, here with me as well to talk about what may have happened. Now, traffic flying through the area does not necessarily need to talk to the airports. However, it is most likely that they would have been in contact with the airport. That's if they were even contacting the airports at all. I'll ask, first off, Eddie, given the winds today, would this be a plane that would be approaching, taking off or leaving from either LaGuardia or Kennedy Airport?
This could very well have been a plane on approach to LaGuardia Airport. With the winds at this angle, they would probably be, if he was on the expressway, a visual approach to runway 21. Normally they bring him in over where the Mazda tanks were, and then bring him on a downwind along the LIE and base to plane runway 21. So it would be normal.
All right, so obviously we're having a little trouble with Eddie's microphone, but Eddie, given the flight pattern at this time, any planes landing at LaGuardia Airport would be coming over Queens and not over the Hudson River. Lisa, Michael, back to you.
Okay.
Jim, thanks very much for that update. If you can continue to hold the shot for us. Terry Shane is a witness, and as you look at tape of the second plane making impact with Tower 2 of the World Trade Center, which just happened 18 minutes after the first impact, which was shortly before 9 a.m., the tape of this second impact happening 18 minutes later, shortly after 9 o'clock this morning. 40,000 people working in the World Trade Center. We don't know how many were in either tower at the time of the impact, but we do have joining us on the phone Terry Shane, who is an eyewitness to what's happened. Terry, good morning.
Morning to you, mate.
Where are you? What's your location, and what did you see happen?
I'm on Union Square, and I was facing the Twin Towers, you know, having my coffee on the balcony in the morning, and I saw this plane coming over, and I called my girlfriend to say, come and have a look at this plane, it's really flying very low. The next thing you know, I see the plane start deviating. It's sort of, you know, doing like not a victory wave, but, you know, a little bit of a left, a little bit of a right, and then it straightened out, and it just continued going straight onto the building, mate.
Oh. And your reaction, of course, was unbelievable, as is ours.
Well, you know what the crazy thing is? I grabbed my camera and tried to take some pictures of the plane coming in, and the camera did not work. The camera didn't work anymore. I couldn't believe it.
Terry, I was unable to hear you a moment ago. Did you make any comment regarding anything you've seen on the ground in that area?
Well, I couldn't see nothing. I can't see the ground, but I can see the two towers very clearly from where I am. And you know, the impact of the plane itself onto the building, it seemed to me as if it went straight through the entire thing.
Right, sure. Again, thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
You're looking live from our Chopper 2 and from multiple cameras around at two planes that have crashed into both World Trade Center bombings. Number one, shortly before 9. Number 2, about 18 minutes later. Debris is drifting over Brooklyn, about 3 miles from Trade Center Building Number 1. According to witnesses. And of course, seeing all that thick black smoke, Michael, harkens back to, of course, the World Trade Center bombing of '93 that killed 6 people, injured more than 1,000 others.
Now, we do expect the mayor to be speaking shortly. Let's go back to the newsroom and Marcia Kramer, who's monitoring the story from there. Marcia?
Well, Michael, although we have no word about whether this is a terrorist attack or not, we do know, CBS2 has learned that the FBI offices across the country, from one end of the country to the other, have been put on high alert. What that means is that they are going to protect all federal buildings all across the country, all landmarks and all monuments, not just here, but in Washington and other places across the country. Again, FBI offices across these United States have been put on high alert to look out for any similar instances. We have to repeat, however, that there's no indication at this time that it was a terrorist attack, but what they're trying to do is to make sure that they have all their bases covered. They're trying to sort it out to find out whether there was a terrorist involvement or whether it was some kind of fluke accident where, for example, the radar system at Kennedy and LaGuardia Airport may have gone down for a brief period of time. Again, the FBI offices across the country are on high alert. Federal buildings, landmarks, monuments, synagogues, mosques, things like that are being guarded to make sure that they are being protected and there are no further incidents.
As investigators clearly look into all possibilities, we certainly don't want to lose focus of the potential here for casualties, and there obviously could be very, very many. Marcia, can you tell us again what hospitals in the area are doing and what they're saying right now as far as how many they're expecting?
Well, I can tell you that New York Beekman downtown is the nearest hospital, so that'll probably be a place where they triage patients. But again, there's so many people that could possibly be injured or even affected by this that they're going to have to probably call into many of the hospitals in New York City. The nearest trauma center would be Bellevue Hospital, which is on the also on the east side, but they'll probably be bringing patients, depending on the seriousness of their injury, to probably all of the hospitals in New York City. I also want to tell you something else. In Sarasota, Florida, President Bush was reading to children in a classroom at 9:05 a.m. when his chief of staff, Andrew Card, whispered into his ear. The president briefly turned somber before he resumed reading. Asked what he knew about the planes, Bush replied, "I'll talk about it later." Here in New York City, again, though, the federal government has tightened security at all landmarks. We want to recap. Planes crashed into the World Trade Center, creating a horrifying scene. There is now no word at this time on casualties, but hospitals in New York City have all been placed on alert. They are expecting casualties. We don't know how many. And again, all landmarks, all FBI offices are on high alert. Michael and Lisa, back to you.
Marcia, thanks very much. We want to give people an idea of what area is affected. If you're unfamiliar and you're new or just visiting New York City, the World Trade Center is down there in the Financial District, just north of Liberty Street, south of Vesey Street, and west of Broadway. It's both Towers 1 and 2, as you can see from the live picture provided by Chopper 2. The first impact in Tower 1 happening just before 9 o'clock this morning. The second impact that we had shown you videotape of not too long ago.
Live on our cameras here.
And we were able to provide that image for you. The second impact, though, happening about 18 minutes after the first impact. And here's another look at it on tape. Hard from our angle to tell what type of plane or to really discern anything from that other than the obvious. So we're continuing to contact the FAA as well as the Port Authority, all airline carriers. We've heard reports that the FBI now investigating possibilities, we want to emphasize, of a possible hijacking and
or suicide mission, that's also a possibility that we're being told is being looked into.
All reports from the Associated Press as well. We understand that George Bush, the president, who was in Florida speaking to children, as Marcia mentioned a moment ago, when he was notified of what had happened, is scheduled to speak sometime soon, as is Mayor Giuliani.
Right.
The Associated Press only reporting that the FBI investigating, as is their job, any possible evidence of foul play.
Okay, of course it's difficult to find out information because the Port Authority is based at the World Trade Center, and Marcia Kramer's been trying to get in touch with them and get the latest for us. She's got a little bit more info for us from the newsroom. Marcia?
Well, Lisa, there is now word that the Port Authority has closed all their bridges and tunnels coming in and out of the city. What that means is the George Washington Bridge is closed, the Lincoln Tunnel is closed, the Holland Tunnel is closed, and all airports are now closed. That's regarded as a security measure. Remember, when you take a look at the possibility of terrorist attack, our bridges and our airports and our tunnels are regarded as prime targets. So to make sure that there isn't any other further disaster, they are closing all the bridges and tunnels into New York City. So to repeat, the George Washington Bridge, the Lincoln and Holland tunnels are closed. All three area airports, Newark, LaGuardia, and Kennedy airports, are closed. Now, in Washington, the FBI was said to investigating reports around 9 o'clock, just before the first crash, of a plane hijacking. That's something that they're going to have to be looking into to see if the plane that crashed into the first World Trade Center building, Tower 1, was in fact a hijacked plane. The way the city and state and federal officials are reacting is as if this was a terrorist attack. All of the FBI offices around the country have been placed on high alert. They are guarding all of our landmarks and our monuments. Again, the Port Authority has closed all of the bridges, all of the tunnels. They have closed all 3 airports. We now have word, however, that the outbound George Washington Bridge is open. All others are closed. Again,
today we had a national tragedy.
Uh-oh, is that President Bush speaking?
Yeah, we're now hearing President Bush.
Let's go to him. If we can even get audio, there he is.
Terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
We've been watching President Bush, who was down in Florida for what was...
Okay, we're coming back, as you just heard, the president speaking about this incident, which he clearly called, or did he?
He seemed to imply that, in fact, it was what looks to be a terrorist act. His remarks very brief, saying only that he had pledged the full resources of the federal government to go to the victims and of the families as well, and also a concerted federal effort to hunt down those responsible, saying that terrorist acts against the United States will not, under any circumstances, be tolerated.
We're understanding that dozens of injuries, people who are injured, have been sent to St. Vincent's Hospital. St. Vincent's is expecting hundreds of more injuries, 100 people, and you could expect that considering there are 40,000 people who work at the World Trade Center towers. This is an unbelievable thing. President Bush was reading to school kids in Sarasota, Florida, when he took a time out to speak about this incident. As you get, again, as you said, Michael, the Mayor Giuliani, is planning to speak at any time now from Park Place and Church Street, which is not too far from the scene. So as soon as he begins to speak, we'll go down to him. We're sending crews out to the scene as well, waiting on Marcella Palmer to get set up and give us what she knows.
The New York City Fire Department asking now all firefighters to return to duty immediately. A department spokesman saying that the firefighters who are off duty or who are on vacation should still report because of what you're seeing here live at the World Trade Center. The pictures provided by Chopper 2, pictures all across the city that we've been following for you for the last hour. This is a live picture, but moments ago, the second impact, the second plane that struck Tower 2 was captured on tape, and you're looking at it right now. Again, this is videotape happening 18 minutes
apart
after the first impact. You saw it as we saw it as it happened. The first impact happening just before 9 o'clock this morning. The second impact 18 minutes after. And again, you were looking there at videotape of that second impact. 40,000 people working at the trade centers. We have no word at this point just how many were in their offices at the time of the crashes. I can back now live, courtesy of Chopper 2.
Michael, we're just hearing one of our information partners, CNN, is reporting that one of the planes was an American Airlines 767 from Boston, a Boeing 767 from Boston, according to our information partner, CNN. We're not sure which plane that was, if it was the first airplane or the second. Again, looking into the possibility of a hijacking, a possible suicide mission. The FBI on high alert. All bridges, tunnels leading into New York City have been closed.
All three
airports have been closed, all under the command of the Port Authority, which ironically is based at the World Trade Center. Also, the Emergency Command Center that's supposed to be bomb-proof and earthquake-proof is at 7 World Trade Center across the street there. President Bush, as you see on the bottom of your screen, is calling the crashes terrorist attacks, and he is pledging to a full-scale investigation to hunt down and find the people responsible for it. Marcia Kramer, you're in the newsroom. What can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you now that New York City is going on high alert. It's going into what you would call its terrorist alert. They've established a no-fly zone over all of Manhattan. The Lincoln-Holland tunnels have been closed. The George Washington Bridge is closed coming into the city. Also, the Queens Midtown Tunnel and the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel are in the process of closing the lanes coming into Manhattan. They are not letting any traffic come into Manhattan. They are trying to get everybody to leave the city. There's a no-fly zone over all of Manhattan, and all of the bridges and tunnels are in the process of being closed. I can also tell you that the first casualty has been brought into Beekman Downtown Hospital. It was a young man in his 20s. He came in with blood gushing out of his arm. The New York City Fire Department has put in a call to all fire department members, firefighters, and others who work in the department to come in even if they are off duty. Again, New York City is going into a high terrorist alert, trying to make sure that there are no further attacks on any of our landmarks, our bridges, or our tunnels. This is a normal procedure that New York City puts in place when they have to deal with something like this. It was a procedure that was developed after the bombing of the World Trade Center, which happened in 1993. I can tell you that witnesses are telling us that they have seen paper and pieces of office material flying through the air, drifting over Brooklyn about 3 miles from the tower. That happened after the first attack. Again, New York City going into a high alert, closing off Manhattan, trying to protect its bridges and tunnels. The UN, the United Nations, has been evacuated. The Stock Exchange has been evacuated. These are two of the landmarks in New York City that police and FBI officials have regarded as potential targets of terrorist attack. Again, we have also learned that FBI offices all across the country have been put on high alert for the possibility that there could be terrorist attacks other places in the country. Again, President Bush said that he called it an apparent terrorist attack, but it will take some time for the FBI, New York City Police Department, and others to determine exactly what happened. Lisa and Michael?
Marsha, have you had any contact at all with the governor's office? Because the Associated Press reporting that Governor Pataki in Manhattan today, that's what the office in Albany is apparently telling the Associated Press, although the staff not saying where the governor was at the time. Do we expect to hear from him, and do you know where he is?
Well, I think that President Bush himself said that he had been in contact with Governor Pataki. I wouldn't be surprised to find Governor Pataki showing up at the same press conference with Mayor Giuliani. At this point in time, it seems it would make a lot of sense for the governor and the mayor to deal with this together. We have another report. All of Lower Manhattan's subways have been closed. They are trying to keep people out of Lower Manhattan so that they can clear the streets to evacuate the people who may have been injured or if there are any fatalities. Right now we have no reports on the number of people injured, on the number of people who are trying to be evacuated from other floors in the building. But what they're trying to do is keep as many people as possible out of Lower Manhattan so that you can get the emergency vehicles to the scene. You need fire trucks, you need as many ambulances as possible, and so you're going to need to keep as many people away from the scene as possible. That's all we have for now. Back to Michael and Lisa.
Okay, Marsha, thanks a lot. We were told a few minutes ago that dozens of injured people were at St. Vincent's, and St. Vincent's is one of the hospitals expecting hundreds of more people to be taken to St. Vincent's. Beekman Downtown Hospital, the first casualty we understand was a man in his 20s who came in with blood gushing out of his arm, according to what Marsha found out. Again, ladies and gentlemen, no-fly zone over the entire area. The only bridge that's open is an outbound GWB. That's the bridge that's opened. Otherwise, the Lincoln and the Holland going into the city are closed. The Queens Midtown Tunnel, about to be closed, is in the process of being closed. They're trying to keep everybody from coming down into this area and trying to get people out. Stock Exchange closed. The UN evacuated. Stock Exchange evacuated. Debris is still drifting miles from the scene as we look at the effects there of two airplanes crashing into the World Trade Center. The first one from witnesses was a small, according to eyewitnesses, a small plane, apparently, a twin engine possibly, or a boat. And then we had another report that it might have been a 737. And then CNN reporting
that one plane, apparently an American Airlines 767 from Boston. That according to CNN. And another quick reminder that the Jersey State Police saying that all Hudson River bridges and tunnels closed as a precaution. And as Marsha Kramer mentioned, that this is just standard operating procedure in a crisis like this, especially what happened after the bombings in the World Trade Center. And then all of these systems then become implemented. And the mayor, as well as the governor, we expect to hear from shortly. You'd heard earlier from President Bush, who seemed to sound reasonably certain that these were terrorist attacks, though, of course, we haven't the final confirmation saying that they are apparent terrorist attacks. The president pledging full support of the federal government, as would be expected for both the victims, their families, and also to launch a full-scale investigation to hunt down those responsible, saying that terrorist acts against the United States under no circumstances will be tolerated. He's obviously quite shaken. He was just prepped as he was speaking to children in Sarasota, Florida. His aides came in, told him what happened. He made his way to a podium to address the country as soon as he could. His remarks very brief, but in essence that's what he was saying. All of the government's resources will be going toward the victims and their families, and as well as an effort to hunt down those responsible.
All right, Michael, we have an eyewitness here, Beverly Marone, who lives 16 blocks from the World Trade Center. Beverly, good morning. You saw the second plane crash into tower number 2?
Yes, I did.
We have video. We saw it live here, but we're going to replay the videotape for those of you who did not see this unbelievable scene here of an airplane crashing into tower number 2 just 18 minutes after another airplane crashed into tower number 1. Beverly, what did you see exactly?
All right, I saw the second plane. My cat woke me up for the first fire. She was hysterical, so I came to the window to see why, because that's where she was running, and I saw the first fire. And a few minutes later, I mean, I don't know exactly, I saw this plane that looked blue and red. My eyesight's not great, so don't
worry. Another eyewitness described the plane as blue and red as well.
And it was big. I mean, you know, it was certainly not a toy plane. From this window, it's big. And it went into exactly where the fire is coming out of the second part of the the second building of the World Trade Center, the building south of where I live.
Sure.
Okay, Beverly, thank you very much for your insight. Hope you stay safe down there. Let's go back to Marcia Kramer in the newsroom for some further developments. Marcia?
Well, we're now able to confirm from reports we've just received that the first plane to hit the World Trade Center, that's Tower 1, was a plane that was hijacked from Boston. It was a 757 from Boston. Again, we have reports that the first plane to hit World Trade Center 1 was a 757 out of Boston. That was a plane that had been hijacked. That apparently was the plane that was being investigated by the FBI just before the tragedy occurred. Again, the 757 out of Boston was the first plane to hit the World Trade Center. We have no reports at this time about what plane was the second. And we're also told, I'm sorry to interrupt you, we're also reporting now, believe it or not, a fire at the Pentagon. So that's part of the reason why the FBI has been put on the alert all over the country. Again, 2 things to report: a fire at the Pentagon, and that the first plane to hit World Trade Center 1 was a 757 that had been hijacked out of Boston. U.S. officials are investigating that. Again, trading on Wall Street has been stopped. The Wall Street Stock Exchange has been evacuated. The United Nations has been evacuated. They are now evacuating the Pentagon. Lots of buildings being evacuated. They're not taking any chances. It's starting to look like this is not an incident limited to New York City, that other U.S. targets, other U.S. sites are being targeted.
This is coming at 9:43 Eastern Time. And we understand that there's a bomb at a helipad.
You're listening to Brian Gumbel with CBS News as you look at pictures, live pictures from Washington, D.C. Marcia mentioning it, you're looking at a fire at the Pentagon. The Pentagon, also the site of activity, is clearly evident there on your screen. CBS News also reporting that the White House has been evacuated. Evacuated only. You're looking at a split screen now. The World Trade Center, the site of 2 plane crashes that Marcia Kramer reporting a moment ago, apparently confirming that the first plane, a 757, was hijacked from Boston. No confirmation yet on the impact of the second plane. And Marcia, are you with us again?
Yeah, I have to tell you, I have to break in. Apparently, the Pentagon was also hit by an airplane. The thing that caused the crash, the Pentagon on fire, was another aircraft that crashed into the Pentagon. So right now, so right now we have, to recap, we have 3 planes 2 hitting the World Trade Center, 1 hitting the Pentagon in Washington. As a result of that, the West Wing of the White House is being evacuated, the Pentagon is being evacuated, and as I've already told you, the United Nations and the Stock Exchange have been evacuated as well. I think you can look for further evacuations of major U.S. installations around the country. Again, FBI offices all across this country are on high alert. They're trying to protect New York City landmarks, national landmarks, New York City landmarks, and also important buildings around this country. I think they'll also be protecting the Capitol and other important buildings in the Washington area. Right now, not only New York City on high alert, but Washington, D.C. as well. The Pentagon has been hit by an aircraft. The Pentagon hit by an aircraft. It is on fire. You can see those pictures on one side of your screen. On the other side of the screen, you can see the World Trade Center, which was hit by two planes. The first plane that hit the World Trade Center was a plane that was hijacked from Boston. As a result of that, we can also tell you that Logan Airport in Boston has also been closed. New York City airports are closed. Bridges and tunnels coming into Manhattan have all been closed. Anything that could be a further terrorist target is now being closed down as New York City and apparently the Capitol go into a high terrorist alert. There's also a new report right now, you're not going to believe this, of a fire on the Washington Mall. So there's now 2 targets in the Washington area. First the Pentagon, and now a fire on the Washington Mall. There's no indication what has caused that fire, but the Washington Mall is on fire. Expect further evacuations of buildings in Washington, as well as further evacuations of buildings here in Manhattan. That's all I have to report. Back to Michael and Lisa.
Quite a lot there, Marcia. Thank you. Washington Mall, of course, a big tourist spot there. If you look live at some of the tape, this is tape of apparently a casualty from the World Trade Center bombing.
From crews on the ground here, this is rather from the plane crash.
Yes, from the plane crash.
We had reports, one confirmed casualty. We don't think it's a reach to assume that there will be far more in that 40,000 people work in the trade centers. As you look, only a live picture on your left as these as the fires continue to burn at the World Trade Center. This is unedited unedited videotape from the ground level.
Is this Beth Israel or St. Vincent's that we're looking at? We're trying to ascertain. Of course, St. Vincent's has already received dozens of people coming in. They're expecting hundreds of more. All the hospitals, Beekman Downtown Hospital, all the hospitals are on high alert as well, as you're expecting hundreds, possibly thousands of injuries. Again, ladies and gentlemen, in case you just missed it, the Pentagon has been hit by a plane. Witnesses saw a tail of a plane strike the Pentagon. As you look live at New York City's 2 Trade Center buildings on fire from 2 apparent airplanes going into it. One was, the first plane crash was from an American Airlines 757 out of Boston that had been hijacked. The second airplane we're trying to get beat on as far as what type of aircraft that was, also a large plane. Logan Airport in Boston has been closed because of it, as are all of our airports, no doubt, our subway system as well. As we look live on the right side as well, that is flames and black smoke billowing from the Pentagon as that aircraft was hit just a few moments ago, 9:40 this morning.
Should point out as well that there's also a fire reported in the Washington Mall. No confirmation as to the cause of that. And the West Wing of the White House and the Capitol buildings have been evacuated amid the concerns over terrorist threats.
Sure.
You heard the president addressing the nation briefly just moments ago after only the 2 plane crashes. I shouldn't say only, but before we had word of the Pentagon plane crash. He spoke to the country briefly. We have those remarks for you. Perhaps we can take a listen, and if you're just joining us, you can get caught up with what the president had to say.
Let's go to Michael Slattery live on the scene. Michael, take it away. John Slattery, I'm sorry. John Slattery. Are you ready? Okay, we were told John was ready. We're going to continue on with our coverage. As you look at a split screen, folks, at an unbelievable scene. Marcia Kramer, what's an update for us? She's in our newsroom.
Well, we just have a little bit more information, Lisa. Apparently that plane out of Boston that left Logan Airport had sent out a radio transmission, a probably coded radio transmission to air traffic controllers that it had been hijacked. That's why the FBI was investigating it, and eventually that was the plane that crashed, the first crash into World Trade Center 1. Again, the plane that crashed into World Trade Center 1 had previously sent out a radio transmission that it had been hijacked check. But given the fact that the route from Boston to New York is a very small one, the FBI probably didn't have enough time to stop the plane before it crashed into World Trade Center 1. They simply didn't have enough time with the radio alert to stop the plane or get another plane into the air to cut it off before it crashed into the World Trade Center. As we've told you, there are now three airplanes that have crashed into major landmarks in our country, 2 into the World Trade Center, 1 into the Pentagon. Again, there's a fire on the Washington Mall. We don't know at this time if the fire was caused by another plane or it was set by somebody on the ground. We're also closing New York City, and federal investigators are in a high terrorist alert. There's a no-fly zone over all of Manhattan. All the bridges and tunnels are closed. The subways in lower Manhattan have been closed. And there are other evacuations expected as this story develops. Lisa and Michael, back to you.
Okay, Marcia, you're recapping very well for us. So all of this happened unbelievably, starting right before 9 a.m. Mr. Bush is down in Sarasota, Florida, and he called this an apparent terrorist attack before the Pentagon was hit.
Talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. In the meantime, Rose Walia, one of our reporters, joining us now from what we believe is very near the scene. Rose?
Well, Michael, right now there is bedlam here at Bellevue Hospital. They're expecting many, many patients. So far, 2 have arrived here. It seemed that the injuries were minor. I was inside the hospital just a short time ago, and alarms were going off. Right now, they're on external disaster, a very high alert at this hospital. Everybody gearing up for this disaster. And here on the FDR, continuously there are sirens just whizzing by, police cars, fire department, and ambulances. And here, right across the street, we can see the plume of smoke coming from lower Manhattan. Certainly very visible here. They're expecting, as I said, many, many patients. Could be thousands of patients, hundreds of patients. As I had mentioned, administrators scrambling for additional staff right now. It's crazy inside of the emergency room. Everybody's standing outside of the emergency room doors, waiting in anticipation for ambulances to arrive here. We'll have much more for you later on today. We're live at Bellevue Hospital. Rose Walia, CBS2, back to you.
Okay, Rose, we want to know where we were. We didn't hear you. So we're still efforting John Slattery. Marcella Palmer also on her way down there, trying to set up and give us the latest details. We're going to check back with Rose in just a few moments. The FAA has shut down all aircraft takeoffs across the nation because of this. We just were told that, according to the Associated Press. The FAA has shut down all aircraft takeoffs across the country, nationwide, because of 2 airplanes hitting World Trade Center Tower number 1 and number 2, as well as the Pentagon being hit by an airplane some 12 minutes ago. On the subject of the Pentagon, John Hatcher joining us now from Washington. John, we understand you had some of a view
Yes, sir.
of what had happened. What did you see?
Well, about 9:30 or so, I heard a rumble that shook the windows in my apartment. So I went into my mom's room and I looked out the window, and I could see this huge plume of smoke going straight up into the sky. So I started freaking because of the World Trade Center.
And did you see, and then you saw the Pentagon?
Well, yeah, and then I saw on television that apparently possibly a helipad at the Pentagon had been blown up. And the plume of smoke now stretches from the Pentagon southward towards on the Shirley Highway, which is, I live right next to the Shirley Highway in Arlington, Virginia.
All right, John, thanks very much. John Hatcher, a witness there near the Pentagon fire where the plane had struck there not too long ago. Right now, let's go turn our attention back to New York City and our own John Slattery, who's got an update for us. John? John, are you there?
Fine, I got it.
Go ahead.
Just tell me when, Jim.
Go ahead. We hear the alarms, obviously. It's going to be going on.
All right, I'm at the corner of West Street and Murray, and it's organized chaos here right now. We've got police who have been evacuating people from the World Financial Center, which is just across West Street from the World Trade Center. And as you can see, let's spin around here for just a second. What we've had here are thousands of people. Let's keep going around. Let's keep going around. We've had thousands of people who have been evacuated from various buildings around here. And what we heard about 20 minutes ago from a man who identified himself as a member of the White House advance staff, he came up to me and he said that he'd heard that a third plane was coming in. Now, Shortly after that, a police captain came up to me and urged us to get out of the area. We were about 2 blocks closer. He also said that their word from Washington was that a third plane was coming in. Whether or not that is going to materialize, we don't have any word right now. But with that, what happened was everyone who had been evacuated from the World Financial Center across the street and who were merely outside the building across the street were then moved about 2 blocks farther away. And in just about the last 5 or 10 minutes, all of the people, thousands of people who were gathered around me right here, were moved back at least another half a block. The police are trying to get a handle on just the crowd control here. And meanwhile, what we saw, if we can look up at the building, you've undoubtedly already seen this as well, but a number of people were apparently jumping from windows. We saw at least 5 or 6. One man told me that he knew of about 10, but an FBI agent confirmed 5, and then with a few minutes after that, we saw a 6th person jump out. So we're unsure as to how many fatalities might be involved in this, but in looking at the people who were standing there absolutely horrified to watch this, many people started screaming, many people started crying, there were people hugging each other, and every time they saw a person jump to his death, there were people who were just grabbing hold of each other and sobbing and wiping their faces and wiping their tears. It's an unbelievable scene here. If we can look around behind us, we've got, sir, could you please move a little? We've got a helicopter taking off over there, and what we were told was that this field was being set up as a medevac location. There are at least, scores and scores of. Now this one's coming in to a closer vantage point. We've had scores and scores of ambulances in the area here. That helicopter is in fact taking off. He was just circling around to get a better angle of attack on his takeoff. As far as the fire control, we have no idea as to what that situation is, but debris continues to rain down from up above, and as of about 5 minutes ago, we were still seeing fire on some of the floors of World Trade. Now, I saw the second plane hit. I did not see the first plane hit, but the second plane was an unmarked silver fuselage. It appeared to be twin engine. I couldn't tell if it was prop or jet, and it took a slight bank and went right into the side of World Trade 2. And having had the first one go in, the second one obviously appeared to be a suicide flight. So the only thing that we can assume here is that they were both suicide flights going in. And as I said before, there's unconfirmed word that even a third plane was on its way here. The disposition of that, we don't know. Now, the studio, I can't hear you right now, but let me go back to you.
John Slattery, thanks very much. He's over at West Street, and Murray,
Lower Manhattan,
giving us our first account of things from ground level. Let's go back to the newsroom now. Marcia Kramer following the developments from that vantage point. Marcia?
Well, we're now getting some picture of the breadth of this national catastrophe. First of all, the White House was evacuated, the entire White House, after the Secret Service received a credible threat, I repeat, a credible threat of a terrorist act against the presidential mansion and residence. But that's not the only building that's been evacuated. We now can report that the State Department, the Capitol, and the Treasury buildings are also being evacuated. And believe it or not, in Los Angeles, they are on a tactical alert, and they are starting to evacuate key buildings in that part of the country as well. So now we have a terrorist alert that goes from the East Coast to the West Coast. Here in New York, we have the terrorist alert because the World Trade Center, both towers were hit by planes. In Washington, a terrorist alert because the Pentagon was hit by a plane and there's a fire on the Washington Mall. And LA has a tactical alert where they are beginning to evacuate buildings. And then there is also another decision by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. No planes are going to be allowed to take off from any airport in this entire country. No planes will be taking off today. They have made a decision to stop all air traffic control, all air traffic.
Marcia, we got to interrupt you. We just saw live from Chopper 2 yet another explosion. Did anybody, Janine, what did you see? You saw, was it an airplane or was it a...
It looked like part of the building, if not most of the top, collapsed, and all the debris from the building was falling down towards the ground.
Look at the smoke. Look at the smoke. This is
the whole building. Did it collapse?
Do we have Jim Smith available on microphone from Chopper 2 as he takes these pictures? Jim?
Yes, I am here, Michael.
Jim, tell us what's happening out there.
Oh my
We just witnessed some kind of secondary follow-up explosion on the World Trade Center number 2, the one that is on the south, that is difficult to make out through the debris and smoke, but it does appear that a portion, the top portion of the building, has collapsed down to the streets below.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable what we have seen here, the debris and smoke just covering the entire portion of lower Manhattan.
Oh my gosh.
Jim, we know this is terribly difficult for everybody. We're asking that you please stay with us, hold your shot, stay with us on audio. We should tell people our crews have been running from that scene, as have everybody, and the entire area has been under an evacuation for some time. And just moments ago, you saw it here live from Chopper 2, a horrific scene as one of the towers there appears to have collapsed from what had happened earlier. A quick chronology as you continue to look live. Just before 9 o'clock this morning, word of a plane crash into Tower 1 that had been confirmed. A 757 hijacked out of Boston was the first impact. 18 minutes later, a second plane impacted Tower 2. Not long after that,
videotape of that second crash.
Not long after this second impact that you will see here on tape, happening 18 minutes after the first impact,
and then
was the fire at the Pentagon.
Right, about 9:30 this morning.
Also confirmed,
and this is the collapse. We're
from the
showing you, this
Associated
is the
Press.
collapse, ladies and gentlemen, on videotape. The collapse that just happened. Unbelievable.
Let's go to Marcia Kramer now in the newsroom as she watches what you're seeing at home right now. Marcia?
Well, the real concern right now for New York City emergency rescue squads is to get people on the ground away from that scene as soon as possible. If you live in the area, if you live in Battery Park City or any of the other housing developments in that area, you should leave the area. You should evacuate the area and get away from the scene. Right now, what police have to determine is whether that explosion was caused from the initial impact of the plane or whether it was something that was exploded on the ground. Generally speaking, for a building to collapse in on itself like that, it would seem to indicate, obviously this is just early speculation, but it would seem to indicate that there could have been an explosion, a bomb planted on the ground that would make the building collapse within itself. But nevertheless, a collapse did happen, and they need to get as many people away from the scene as possible. If you live in the area, if you live in Battery Park City, the best thing that you can do for yourself to keep yourself safe is to leave the area as fast as possible. The important thing now is for people, emergency service people, all the firemen, the policemen, the EMS technicians, to be able to get to the scene and to help as many people as possible, people who are still alive and people who possibly could be evacuated from the other World Trade Center building that's next door. They want to minimize the amount of loss of life as much as possible. Again, I can also tell you that the entire nation is on a terrorist alert right now. FBI offices all across the country are on alert. Washington, pretty much all of Washington has been evacuated. The White House, the State Department, the Capitol building, and the Treasury have been evacuated. Here in New York, the UN and the Stock Exchange have been evacuated. And in Los Angeles, it's on tactical alert. They are evacuating buildings in Los Angeles as well, mostly high glass structures. And the FAA has ordered all airplanes, all airports across the country to close down. There will be no more air traffic because they do not want to allow any more planes to strike a target in our country. That's all for now. Back to you, Lisa and Michael.
All right, Marcia, we've been told that, of course, parents are concerned because there are some schools down there. There are 3 high schools that are down there. We've been told that the students are still inside and they are safe. Of the 3 high schools, we're trying to get the names of those high schools for you in that lower Manhattan area, but we're told that the students are safe, that they've been kept inside, and they are obviously being hunkered down as far as this is concerned. It's going to be very difficult, though, Michael, for anyone to try to find their way out because of all the incredible amount of smoke on the ground, much less trying to breathe through that as they try to make their way out. Again, stay away from the area. All the bridges and tunnels are closed coming into the city. This is an unbelievable scene. I don't think anybody ever could have imagined something as horrific as what we're seeing right now.
It continues to get worse, and joining us, Kyle Beard, who's an eyewitness, joining us now on the phone. Kyle?
Yes, hi.
What, did you just witness that collapse?
My neighbor and I did, yes, but I saw this second plane. I saw it coming in from the harbor, and it was United, and it looked like it was maybe a 757, a 767, one of the mid-range commuter planes. Mm-hmm. And it came in low. It was just over the river, just over the tops of the buildings, and then it made a deliberate turn right into the World Trade Center. And now we were just looking at my neighbors downstairs that we saw just smoke, this huge amount of smoke when the building collapsed.
Sure, that's what we're seeing now.
And it's been over. I'm in the Carroll Gardens section of Brooklyn, and it's been like snow over here. There's just been pieces of charred paper, whole pieces of paper, shattered pieces of paper, but I did see the second plane. It came in very, very fast from the harbor, and it was going along the East River, and I thought, my God, it's going to brush the Brooklyn Bridge. Mm-hmm. And then it got just at the World Trade Center and turned, just the wing just bent, how do you call that? Dipped.
Yeah.
It just dipped and went right into the building.
Horrible
but
scene.
It was United, definitely, because it was the two shades of gray with the red stripe along the middle.
Okay, so you're saying United Airlines.
Kyle, we appreciate your insight, though we should reiterate to folks we do not have confirmation on that second plane. We do know that the first one was a 757.
You got to take in this picture, though, Michael, as you look live from Chopper 2. All of Lower Manhattan billowing in smoke, in white and gray and black smoke. The entire Lower Manhattan covered in what is a catastrophe of enormous magnitude, something that you and I never would imagine we would see in our lifetime.
Just moments ago, one of the towers collapsing on top of itself. Marcia Kramer with more now from the newsroom. Marcia?
Well, we now have a report that when that tower collapsed, it may have collapsed on another building, and that building is now either on fire or they're evacuating people from that building as well. So there's a third building involved in the World Trade Center area, which was hit by the debris and the steel and whatever else was coming out of the building from World Trade Center 1. Now we want to tell parents that the students that are in the 3 high schools in the area, one of them is Stuyvesant High School, are safe right now, but parents who want to come pick up their children can come and pick up their children and get them home. Now, to give you some sense of how broad this is, I can tell you that in Chicago officials have now evacuated the Sears Tower. So now we have evacuations running from New York to Washington to Chicago to LA. Again, all airports are closed. Also, the New Jersey State Police have now opened an emergency command center of their own in New Jersey to try to assist New York in trying to deal with this incredible tragedy. Now, for parents of students who go to schools in the area, there are, in addition to Stuyvesant High School, which is a high school for gifted kids, there are also 2 elementary schools that are in the Battery Park City houses. The children are said to be safe at the present time, but school officials are saying that if parents want to go to school and take their kids away from there, they are welcome to do so. Again, though, those children are safe at the present time. That's all we have for now, Michael, and Lisa, back to you.
There's also daycare centers on Wall Street, I know for sure, because my stepdaughter used to go to a daycare center right on Wall Street, and you got to worry about those small kids as well as the children at the elementary schools, but the word we're getting is that they're safe and they're being kept in school. But again, parents can come down and get their children if they so desire, which is completely understandable as you look at this scene. New York City, as you see from our breaking news bulletin, is on full terrorist alert. Planes have crashed into the building. The latest incident just happened a few minutes ago, right at 10 o'clock, where the top of the World Trade Center number 2 building, I believe, is that right, Michael? Or number 1 building? Number 1 building was the building that was hit by the bombing in '93. But the building has collapsed, and according to Marshall, we understand that it collapsed onto another building down below.
Nearby, fires raging. Rose Walia at the scene near Bellevue Hospital with an update. Rose, what can you tell us?
Well, a lot of ambulances coming in and out of here at Bellevue Hospital, and they're expecting many more patients now that one of the towers has collapsed. You can see here on the FDR, they have actually shut it down to normal traffic. They're only allowing emergency vehicles through to Lower Manhattan at this point. And we understand right now administrators scrambling to find additional personnel. Right now, cell phones and the phones inside of the hospital are down, so they're having trouble communicating with their internal staff. and to find doctors and nurses to come in and deal with this unbelievable situation. Here they are on external disaster, a very high alert at this hospital, but they're doing their best. Hospital administrators waiting outside, doctors and nurses waiting outside of this hospital, waiting for these patients to come here and get the best help as possible. Certainly a tragic situation. A lot of people here feeling very, very depressed and sad at the fact that a New York landmark has been destroyed in such a way. We're live at Bellevue Hospital. Rose Wally at CBS2, back to you.
Okay, Rose, and the entire city in gridlock. Everybody's in a state of shock. New York City, an entire state of shock.
Again, just a reminder, if you're joining us now, you're looking at live pictures from Chopper 2 at the remaining tower, World Trade Center tower, that's still standing. The second tower there had collapsed just moments ago. Marcia Kramer still in the newsroom as we take a look at both the live picture and tape of the scene just after just as that second tower collapsed.
That's on the left side of your screen.
Marcia, you have an update for us?
Well, yes. Now, a source is telling the Associated Press that the second plane that hit World Trade Center 2 may actually have been flying out of Newark Airport, which would have enabled it to get there very quickly and would have accounted for only the 18-minute gap between the crash into the World Trade Center 1 and the crash into World Trade Center 2. Again, we had the first plane that came out of Boston. It was apparently hijacked out of Boston, came and hit World Trade Center 1, and apparently now a source is telling the Associated Press that the plane that hit World Trade Center 2 had flown out of Newark Airport. The State Emergency Management Office is actually also being evacuated, and now state and local officials are trying to clamp down on exactly what their security plan is. For obvious reasons, they don't want to telegraph their moves to any terrorists that may be on the ground listening and trying to cause further upset to both New York, Washington, or any place else around the country.
We're looking at, thank you, Marcia. We're looking at a live picture on the right side of your screen. On the left side, in case you missed it, the second plane that went into World Trade Center Tower number 2. That's a replay of a tape on the left side of your screen.
Let's bring in a guest on our studio, Michael Hirschman. He is the president of Decision Strategies, an international security and counterterrorism firm. Michael, what can you tell us that has not already been said from what we've seen?
Well, we know very little at this point about who's responsible for this tragedy. A lot of speculation, obviously, going on. It has the markings of a Middle East act of terrorism.
And why do you say that?
Well, often in the Middle East, when there's a bombing, a suicide bombing or a car bombing, you'll find a second bomb going off when the emergency response crews respond to cause maximum injury and damage. This is our worst case scenario. This is something that has been talked about in the security industry over the years. This is something that has been planned for in terms of response, but it's still hard to imagine. And dealing with a tragedy of this magnitude, both from an investigative standpoint and from a response standpoint, is going to be virtually impossible.
Clearly, you can only do so much to prevent something like this, and as you had mentioned, a lot of the effort is put into response. What, aside from getting all your emergency personnel to the scene, can you possibly do as we look at it still unfolding live in front of you? The only remaining World Trade Center tower still standing. The second one has collapsed not too long ago. What can you do aside from just getting your emergency crews to a scene?
Well, there are two things going on right now. One is this is a crime scene, and the FBI obviously is in charge of the crime scene investigation as well as the police. That probably is not taking precedence at the moment over the rescue efforts. But nonetheless, they're there, they're collecting whatever information they can. And right now, you can imagine all of our intelligence agencies, both domestic and overseas, are tapping every source imaginable to try to find out who might be responsible. I just want to say that don't be surprised if no one claims credit. We're sitting here and asking ourselves who's responsible and who have we heard from. You may recall we've had other incidents in this country and other incidents around the world where no one claims credit.
Because the damage has been done and they're satisfied with that. They don't find it necessary to claim credit, I guess.
Michael, stay with us if you would. We want to go back to Marcia Kramer, who's in the newsroom, for a further update. Marcia?
Well, we have a number of updates. Number one, CNN is now reporting that there was a third explosion at the World Trade Center, probably an explosion from the ground that caused World Trade Center 1 to collapse on top of itself. Again, there was a third explosion. It's unclear what caused it, whether it was a bomb or whether the first plane that crashed into the tower had somehow been booby-trapped with a bomb that was timed to explode later after the crash had occurred. But CNN is reporting that there was a third explosion that caused World Trade Center 1 to collapse within itself and then collapse on other surrounding buildings. But you know, it's interesting here to reflect about the timing of this, what appears to be a terrorist attack. It comes just a few weeks before there was supposed to be a major world gathering of Jewish leaders on the 23rd of September that was supposed to be bringing in people from all around the country and around the world to voice support for Israel in its battles with the Palestinians. In fact, all of the Israeli leaders were expected to attend, and it was expected to try to send a message to the United Nations, which has its opening session at that time, that Israel needed support. Also, there is another event the week after that. The United Monetary Fund is going to be meeting in Washington, and that was also expected to draw protesters from all around the world. In fact, so many protesters that Washington police officials had started building walls around various Washington monuments in an attempt to protect the monuments, Capitol buildings, and others from a possibility that there could be disruption. Now, I also want to tell you that President Bush is now saying he is launching a full-scale investigation to hunt down these terrorists. President Bush launching a full-scale investigation to hunt down these terrorists. I guess President Bush is no longer equivocating about whether or not the United States is under terrorist attack. Lisa, Michael, back to you.
Right, and we want to point out that the president is not and was not in Washington, D.C. this morning. He was in Sarasota, Florida, talking to school children when this happened, so he was completely safe. Governor Pataki, we understand, is in the city, and Mayor Giuliani is also here, of course, and he was preparing to speak earlier this morning, but of course that was prior to all of the secondary blasts. And
Marcia? Sorry to interrupt you, Lisa. Marcia, we understand you have another update.
Unfortunately, I do. CNN is now, believe it or not, reporting an explosion on Capitol Hill. Fortunately, the explosion happened after Capitol Police had started to evacuate the Capitol. We don't know if any of the senators or representatives were still in the building when the explosion happened, but there is another explosion. That makes 2 explosions and a fire in Washington. An explosion at the Pentagon that we've confirmed was caused by a plane. An explosion at the Capitol, we don't know what caused it, and a fire on the Washington Mall, we don't know what caused that. But the fact that there have been so many attacks would seem to indicate that there are people on the ground as well as in the air that are helping to set off and to participate in this terrorist event.
Are you able to hear me? If you could you please reiterate the information you had regarding the schools in the lower Manhattan area?
Well, what we're told is that there are 3 schools in the lower Manhattan area. There is Stuyvesant High School, which is a high school for gifted students, and there are 2 elementary schools that are also in that area. They're in the Batteries Park City complex. What we're told right now is that the kids are safe. The kids are in the classrooms, but parents who want to go and take their kids home are going to be permitted to do so. That's as of right now. I don't know what they're going to find when they get to the scene.
All air traffic shut down nationwide. And for those of you just joining us, as you continue to look live at the only standing tower remaining of the World Trade Centers, the second had collapsed not too long ago. Both have been hit by planes. We understand it was a third explosion, however, that brought the tower to collapse. On top of is what we understand are other buildings in the area. No word right now on the extent of the casualties, but clearly they are substantial. What you're looking at the left side of your screen there was the tower as it did collapse on tape. The picture on the right, live at the scene right now, smoke billowing through all travel in and out of the city right now, frozen solid. And I understand, Lisa, that
we're going to go to Whitney Casey, one of our CBS2 reporters. Whitney Casey is at St. Vincent's Hospital, one of the first hospitals to receive injuries. Whitney, what can you tell us?
I'm out here at St. Vincent's, and we've got a doctor right here. He is just called in.
initially you said that there were hundreds of doctors that have called in. You said now you're really worried about all of the smoke inhalation. That's going to be a big problem with the second building going down.
Right. Well, basically, even with the first building, that most of the damage is people inhaling smoke and, smoke inhalation problems, getting oxygen, obviously, to their body. I'm an orthopedic doctor, so it's been kind of only 1 or 2 patients have come in so far. But I think the biggest problem is evacuating people from the scene and bringing them into the hospital.
And we're expecting a chopper about right here with some of the injured?
Yeah, that's the way here. Apparently the roads are very full and we have problems getting people in.
Now, what did you tell me? You're urging people to donate blood. That's very important right now.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're told that we're not. Thank you very much. All right, we'll keep you live. We'll keep you posted here at St. Vincent's Hospital. We're going to have hundreds of people expected here. And doctors say right now there are about 50 to 100 in critical condition here at St. Vincent's. Reporting live, Whitney Casey.
Whitney, you're telling us now the doctors are saying there are about 50 to 100 people who are in critical condition at St. Vincent's right now.
Yes, that's right. I hear, we just heard from a doctor, it's unconfirmed from anyone at St. Vincent's, but the doctor did just tell me that right now they have 50 to 100 in critical condition, but they're really worried about the smoke inhalation. They said that thousands of people they expect to be affected by this smoke inhalation in and around the World Trade Center because of that second building falling in.
All right, Whitney, thanks very much. The problem's not just here in New York, as we've been reporting to you all morning long, and now word from the State Department, as it had already been evacuated because of what had happened here in New York City, that there's a possible explosion there as well. So quickly to recap the chronology as you look live at the scene of the one remaining tower, the World Trade Center, we had a plane crash from a plane hijacked out of Boston just before 9 o'clock. It hit Tower 1 of the World Trade Center. Then a second crash 18 minutes later. What we have heard from the Associated Press was a plane out of Newark. Then a third crash at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. and a fire at the Washington Mall. And now a fifth word that there was an explosion at Capitol Hill, which had since been evacuated. And now the sixth incident right now, the State Department apparently had been evacuated as all this was going on, only to find out that there's been a possible explosion there as well.
And Michael, I've been told by our guest here, Michael Hirschman, who's the president of an international security and counterterrorism firm, that there's an unidentified aircraft approaching an airport in Northern Virginia, possibly Dulles or Washington National Airport. Authorities there are scrambling to find out about that aircraft. An unidentified aircraft circling and approaching an airport in Northern Virginia. We're not sure which airport that is. You have Dulles there, you have Reagan International, and George, actually those are the two airports there, scrambling to find out the nature of that aircraft. Can you tell us any more, Mr. Hirschman?
Only that's an unidentified aircraft approaching Northern Virginia.
Okay. What is it that that security can do at this point as they monitor that flight?
Well, my information, and of course all of this is unconfirmed. You can imagine the state of confusion right now. But my information is that they're scrambling jet fighters out of local military aircraft.
Michael, we'll come back to you in just a couple of moments. I hate to interrupt you. Let's go to Cindy Hsu, who's in the newsroom. She's got a further update. Cindy?
Okay, Michael, we have information from the Pentagon evacuation. General Richard Myers, Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said that prior to the crash into the Pentagon, military officials had been notified that another hijacked plane had been heading from New York area to Washington, and that's according to the AP. Also, we were talking about the State Department being evacuated, and it is because of a possible explosion or fire there. We're trying to get more information. And then locally here, we're hearing from Beekman Hospital that everyone has been called in, administrative, doctors, nurses, and that they are getting people from everywhere into that hospital. It's now called the NYU Downtown Hospital, and that's all we have here right now, Michael.
Sure, and along those lines, Cindy, every firefighter has been called in off vacation, called in off their days off to come in and help assist with this major, enormous nationwide tragedy here. So all firefighters have already supposedly been reported, have been called in, and hopefully as many firefighters as possible are helping assist with this, as in all doctors and nurses and hospital support staff.
A horrible situation all the way around, and a quick reminder for parents is there are schools in that area, in the financial district.
PS 84.
We have received word apparently that the students, though, in those schools are okay. That's what we're hearing, and we're also hearing that parents can, how they get there at this point we don't know, but can go get their children if you're able to get there. Obviously the area is still very dangerous, so we caution you against taking any unnecessary action. However, if it's your child, we certainly
understand.
Yeah, we certainly would understand. But keep in mind that what you're seeing on your screen right now is live. This is not tape at all. This is the only remaining World Trade Center tower. The other collapsing not too long ago. Both victims of plane crashes. The tower rather that has collapsed, though we are told collapsed because of a third explosion. The source of that, though, at this point, we don't know. Now, let's go back to that story that you had mentioned a moment ago. There are 6 instances that we've been reporting. We have the crashes at the Trade Center, a crash at the Pentagon, a fire at the Washington Mall, and an explosion at Capitol Hill, as well as one at the State Department. And we just received late word of a suspicious plane.
Exactly. A suspicious plane approaching an airport in Northern Virginia, trying to determine whether that's Dulles or Reagan-Washington Airport. Not sure at this point. Authorities, of course, are scrambling to find out the details of that unidentified aircraft. Unbelievable scene as you look live at Shopper 2. You talked about the issue of going down and trying to get your children or your loved ones down in Lower Manhattan. You have to be worried about, as one of the doctors we interviewed said, you have to be worried about smoke inhalation. That is a major concern. Already St. Vincent's Hospital getting hundreds of people. We hear anywhere from 50 to 100 people in critical condition at St. Vincent's Hospital, although it's not an official estimate tally at all, expecting hundreds, possibly thousands more.
One of the instances that we've been reporting is that explosion at the State Department. The Associated Press now reporting that it was a car bomb explosion. Now, we don't know if that means there were 2 explosions, one of which was a car bomb. At this point, the AP only saying that there was an explosion outside the State Department. It was a car bomb, as we continue to keep close eye on all the events happening throughout the United States today.
New York City schools, we've just been told, are in lockdown. New York City schools are in lockdown, meaning, of course, that no child is going out anywhere. They're going to be remaining safe inside their schools. No doubt they have emergency plans in place, and they are implementing them right now. We do have our CBS2 crews on their way. We have Rose Walia out at Bellevue Hospital. We had Whitney Casey at St. Vincent's Hospital. John Slattery was one of the reporters who was right by the World Trade Center prior to number 2 tower collapsing. We are concerned about him. We haven't heard from him yet, but we understand that he and his crew took off and tried to get out of the area, as have, I'm sure,
He was over at West and Murray, and we should tell you, if you're just joining us, the FAA has shut down all aircraft takeoffs nationwide. All international flights have been diverted now to Canada as we continue to monitor the situations here in the United States. What you're looking at right now, again, live pictures as it is all developing from this morning. The first plane crash into one of the World Trade Center towers happening before 9 o'clock. It's now an hour and a half later. 18 minutes after the first impact, a second plane crashed into the second tower, and then the eventual collapse of that tower.
At 10 o'clock this morning.
Cindy Hsu in the newsroom right now with further details. Cindy?
Well, Michael and Lisa, we have more information on the schools. I know a lot of parents have to be concerned out there. Again, the New York City schools are in a lockdown, but they are told that the kids are being kept inside, although the parents are welcome to come and pick them up. They will not be released from the school until the parents come to pick them up. We also hearing that there was no explosion on Capitol Hill. You know, this is so preliminary. We get so much information that it's going to change throughout the day, and at this point they're saying no explosion on Capitol Hill. Also, as you mentioned, the international flights are now being diverted to Canada, and air traffic is being stopped everywhere else. That's really all we have right now from the newsroom. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. We'll check back with you in just a moment. Of course, Lower Manhattan, all the bridges and tunnels have been closed. A lot of the subways, at first we were hearing all of the subways have been closed. We're trying to get an update, especially going into Lower Manhattan. Those have been closed. Obviously, it'd be difficult to try to take a subway into and out of Lower Manhattan, considering all the smoke. The United Nations has been evacuated. The trading on the stock exchange has been suspended because of the bombings and the explosions. The only bridge that we heard earlier was that the outbound GW bridge was open, going out, trying to get everybody to go out. One of the concerns, of course, was that the Emergency Command Center was at 7 World Trade Center, which is across the street from Tower 1 and what was Tower 2, unfortunately, and that the Port Authority was based at the World Trade Center. President Bush did comment earlier. He called it an apparent terrorist attack, but then updated that to call it
seemingly at this point quite certain. He pledges the government's full support, as would be obvious, for the victims and their families, as well as a full-scale investigation to hunt down those responsible. Let's go back to Cindy Hsu in the newsroom, who's joining us now with another update. Cindy?
Wait a second. Is this a live picture? This is a live picture. We are seeing the second World Trade Center Tower number 1 has just collapsed, ladies and gentlemen. You see it live in our picture. One World Trade Center has just collapsed. That means both World Trade Center buildings have collapsed.
If Jim Smith is with us still in Chopper 2, Jim, are you there?
What?
Michael, we just saw that as well. The second tower, the only one that was standing, tower number 1, just we saw some kind of explosion, a lot of smoke come out of the top of the tower, and then it collapsed down onto the streets below, much like we saw the first tower just about a half hour ago.
Gosh, this is an unbelievable, it's incredible, incredulous.
Truly, as you're looking at the at what there is of the Manhattan skyline at this point, the two most prominent landmarks, the World Trade Centers, now reduced to a pile of rubble and ash, smoke billowing above the city. Jim Smith, stay with us if you will. What is the evaluation and what else you're able to see from your vantage point?
Oh, Michael, we have seen the entire lower half of Manhattan just completely covered in smoke, debris, dust. Everything well south of Canal Street is just completely and covered in this smoke and dust at this time. There is not anything recognizable of what were the two trade towers, nothing standing out from those clouds of dust at this time.
My goodness.
We understand the schools in the area reporting that the children were there. At last report, the children were safe. They're saying that the parents, if you can get there, and in this, frankly, it'd be quite difficult. The schools are under a lockdown. The children are not allowed to leave unless the parents come to get them. But we have heard word that the children are okay. The casualties here are far, we don't even want to speculate.
No,
we do have
can't.
reporters at St. Vincent's, at Bellevue, throughout the city, crews throughout the city. We know that you're worried about your loved ones down there. This is the financial district of the world, and clearly untold number of people that are down there right now. And this is as close as we can get to the scene. Jim Smith, you're about, what, 5 miles?
Yeah, that's right, Michael. We're about 5 to 6 miles away. We've been forced to move to Staten Island at this point to bring you these pictures. And we understand to go along with the airport shutting down and no airplanes being allowed to take off nationwide, we have been in contact with military aircraft in the area that are enforcing a complete no-fly zone. Once we land, we will not be allowed to take back off. So as aircraft are removed from the area, none will be allowed back in.
That's understandable. Langley Air Force Base, all the Air Force bases you would imagine are on high alert. Possibly, I don't know if anybody's, we're not hearing that. We're trying to get the beat on whether the military and to what aspect the military has been and is taking action about this. Again, not a confirmation per se, but it's hard to imagine that this is anything but a terrorist attack. We're getting some information here.
Just the timeline of the events, but let's stay with what you're looking at, if we could, as a live picture of what is left of the Manhattan skyline. Jim, I want to bring you back in because we have reports that there are United States fighter jets cruising the area over New Jersey. Can you confirm that?
Yes, we can. Our pilot has been in contact with some F-16 fighters that have been in the area. We do not know exactly what they'll be doing at this time. As we mentioned earlier, they are removing all aircraft within the region and enforcing a complete no-fly zone over Manhattan.
All right, Jim. Just got a word. I want to go ahead and reiterate that all off-duty firefighters have been ordered to report to duty. All off-duty firefighters have been ordered to report to duty, and you can understand why. I don't imagine there would be a firefighter out there who wouldn't want to come and assist the hundreds, thousands of people who are affected by this incredible national tragedy. You're looking live, ladies and gentlemen, at Chopper 2 at what is the aftermath of both World Trade Center towers having collapsed. Both towers have collapsed. 40,000 people worked at World Trade Center, not to mention the entire financial district down there. It was, and in the process of being evacuated, hopefully thousands of people were able to get out of that lower Manhattan area. But you got to imagine, Michael, all the people who live there, all the people who work there, the children who go to school there, the children who are in daycare there, the support staff, doctors, of course, and the hospitals in the area are going to be inundated. This is something that you and I never, ever expected to see.
Sadly, we've had to bring you these pictures live as the situation across the country right now continues to develop. And we should tell you, if you're trying to get into the city, nothing is open, as would be obvious. However, I know there are parents out there who are concerned about their children. Again, word from the schools that the children in that area are okay. Of course, the schools are on lockdown. The children will not be released without their parents being there to pick them up. As you look live at the scene from Chopper 2 at what's left of the Manhattan skyline, just a smoky blur from New York Harbor. The two largest
every building covered in smoke.
Landmarks, both the World Trade Center towers collapsing. not very long ago at all. The first instance that we had was the plane crash just before 9 into the first tower, a second crash into the second tower 18 minutes later, third blast brought down one tower, and then just moments ago, the second tower collapsed. Let's go back to Cindy Shoes in the newsroom for another update.
If you look at the second tower collapsing right there on the left side of your screen. Cindy, take it away.
All right, Michael Mace, I'm just watching. This is so hard to watch. New Jersey Transit has canceled all their transit that they're having right now. And talking about school, Stuyvesant School is being used for triage. Again, Stuyvesant School used for triage. And we do have information on the first plane that went into the World Trade Center. It was the American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston to LA. American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston to LA, which is believed to have been hijacked. They are also evacuating City Hall right now, and New Jersey is under heightened state of alert. So that's all we have now from the newsroom.
We should reiterate that the president was in Florida at the time of all of this, continues to be in Florida, reading to children, we're told. When his aides came in and told him just what happened, he did comment to the country so very briefly, just moments after 9 o'clock, after the second explosion, saying only that the government, and clearly it's an obvious remark at the time, we didn't know how obvious it would be that the government is going to be investigating this, as they have been from the moment this began to unfold, and that the full weight of the federal government would be behind the victims and their families.
Got to bring in also, Michael, this is primary day, and we're waiting on a report from the governor to make a decision about the primary day elections, whether they're going to be counted or whether they're going to postpone and reschedule primary day elections.
The governor rather having to be in Manhattan, we understand today. We have not received word, other than we had been told that the president said that he had spoken with Governor Pataki as well as Mayor Giuliani, so we assume that they are okay, though we ourselves have not heard official word from the mayor and from the governor, though we do expect to hear shortly, if it's at all possible, that they can update the city as to what's happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, we're going to do a recap of this incredible, catastrophic event that has happened and is affecting not only lower Manhattan, but all of the entire country and the world. We have had a plane crash into the tower of World Trade Center number 1. That plane has been identified as an American Airlines 757 flight number 11 from Boston on its way to LA that had been hijacked and went into and crashed into World Trade Center Tower number 1 shortly before 9 a.m. this morning. A second airplane, unbelievably, crashed into the second tower of the World Trade Center shortly after, about 18 minutes after 9. And then President Bush made his comment. He called it an apparent terrorist attack. Shortly after that, ladies and gentlemen, we understood that an aircraft crashed into the Pentagon in Washington about an hour after the attacks in New York. And then shortly after 10 o'clock this morning, World Trade Center Tower number 1 collapsed, and then at 10:30, World Trade Center Tower number 2 collapsed.
And one of the stories we're also staying on top of for you is that we had received word that there was an unidentified aircraft that was now approaching an airport somewhere in northern Virginia. All we know is that the plane is unidentified. Now, as we told you earlier, the FAA has shut down all aircraft takeoffs nationwide. All inbound international flights have been diverted to Canada. And as we continue to wait for word on this developing story, as we told you, that unidentified plane flying to one airport, we're not told which one, somewhere in northern Virginia, we can only reiterate the developments that have happened at this point.
Speaking of developments, Michael, I can't admit what happened in Washington, D.C. beside the explosion of the plane going into the Pentagon. We heard earlier that there was an explosion at Capitol Hill. We're relieved to say that it did not exist, that did not happen. There was no explosion at Capitol Hill, but we did hear reports earlier that there was a fire at the very popular Washington Mall in Washington, D.C. Cindy Shue is in our newsroom. She's keeping up abreast of late-breaking details. Cindy.
Okay, Lisa, we're hearing, I'm sure a lot of people are making calls down to friends lower Manhattan. The phones in the city are overloaded. Do not be surprised if you cannot get through. We're having a lot of trouble on the phone lines. We have an update on the schools. Now listen carefully. PS and IS 89 and PS 234. The students there are being walked to PS 41 at 116 West 11th Street. Let me say that again. PS and IS 89 and students from PS 234 are being walked to PS 41, which is located at 116 West 11th. We also have PS 150. The students from PS 150 are being walked to PS 3, and that's located at Christopher and Hudson. PS 150, the students there are being walked to PS 3 at Christopher and Hudson, and that's where parents can pick up the kids. And Stuyvesant High School is being used for triage right now.
Okay, Cindy, thank you. Let's go to Rose Walia. Rose, live at Bellevue Hospital. What can you tell us?
Well, we just had an update just a moment ago. There are about 100 people inside of the command center of Bellevue Hospital right now working on patients. We're told there are 8 patients here right now. One of those patients is DOA. They have closed the hospital down to all patients except for those being brought from this tragic incident from Lower Manhattan. They say they have the ability to triage hundreds of patients here, but they say they have never had a disaster like this, so they will really be testing their mettle under these circumstances. And they have called all
Rose,
staff,
we hate to
all
interrupt you.
doctors, all nurses, all aides. Everyone has been called into the
We hate to interrupt you. We've just been told
a fourth explosion. Now in the area of the World Trade Center. Obviously, neither tower is still standing. We don't know the source of this fourth explosion, but we do have Cindy Hsu in the newsroom. Perhaps she can shed a little light on this for us, Cindy.
Can't tell you much about the fourth explosion. What I can tell you is happening right now. 20 minutes ago, a 767 from Pittsburgh was hijacked. We believe that plane is headed towards Washington or Northern Virginia. 767 from Pittsburgh was hijacked. Also, a plane has gone down in Pennsylvania. That's according to CNN. A plane down in Pennsylvania. And the Board of Elections, also on the elections, the Board of Elections has canceled today's primary. So voters stay at home. Board of Elections has canceled today's primary. That's the latest now from the newsroom.
All right.
Well, we mentioned it just a minute, Michael, ago, that there was an unidentified aircraft that was approaching an airport in Northern Virginia. Apparently, it is that 767 from Pittsburgh that's approaching Northern Virginia Airport.
And Cindy, if you're still there, I just want to clarify. You're saying there's a plane down, a report of a plane down somewhere else in Pennsylvania?
Yes, we are getting that from CNN, is reporting that there is a plane down in Pennsylvania, a large plane.
As well as now a fourth explosion at the site of the World Trade Center. As you continue to look live at the scene across New York Harbor, what is left of the skyline is truly just smoke and ash right now. And parents, as you continue to watch with us, here's what Cindy had told us regarding children in that area. The kids from PS 89 and 234 were taken to PS 141. And those students at PS 150 were taken to PS 3. And the children are not obviously going anywhere. We're told that they are safe. We'll have the parents there to pick them up, but clearly in this chaotic situation, we don't imagine that you'll be able to get in there to get them. However, take some comfort in knowing that the word from those schools is that the children are doing okay. Cindy?
What can you tell us? Cindy, back to you in the newsroom.
Right, more bad news. Part of the Pentagon has collapsed. That's according to CNN. We're now hearing that part of the Pentagon has collapsed. Let's go locally one more time with those schools. It's PS 89 and 234. The kids are actually being walked to PS 41, and that's at 116 West 11th. And students from PS 150 are being walked to PS 3, which is located at Christopher and Hudson. And again, that's where parents can pick up the kids. And once again, I just have to reiterate, the phone lines are really, a lot of people are having trouble getting through, so that has to be really tough, but that's happening citywide.
All right, again, Cindy, do me a favor and repeat that those schools changes again, too. I know a lot of people are needing to hear that.
Right, it's PS 89 and PS 234, and all those students are now being walked to PS 41, and that is located at 116 West 11th.
Okay.
Cindy, stay with us as we continue to update people. We just want to recap what it is that's happened today, and you can help us fill in some of the blanks as we're all getting bombarded with information. The first crash happening before 9, a hijacked plane out of Boston, American Airlines Flight 11, hit the first tower before 9 of the World Trade Center. 18 minutes later, a crash in the second tower, then a crash at the Pentagon, and you're now reporting that a portion of the Pentagon has collapsed?
Yes, that's what we're hearing from CNN, and we're also hearing that the Pentagon is monitoring that 767 that has been hijacked from Pittsburgh, which is believed that plane is believed to be headed to Washington or Northern Virginia. So they're hoping to, head that off before something else happens.
Just a reminder, folks, if you're joining us now, you're looking at a live picture from the Pentagon there on the left of your screen, the New York,
actually, it's a
tape of the Pentagon, I'm sorry, and the New York skyline there on the right. Cindy, if you're still with us, we have a confirmation then of a fire at the Washington Mall as well, and an explosion at the State Department, which right now the Associated Press is reporting that it was in fact a car bomb.
Right. And okay.
All bridges and tunnels closed into Manhattan, as you would imagine. The city under a lockdown, an emergency alert as the mayor, the governor round up their people and try to assess the damage. has happened today, not only here, but of course across the country. The president has already addressed the nation for just a couple of moments. He's been in Florida all day talking to children in Sarasota when he was told about what had happened from aides, saying only that the full weight of the government looking into all of this, providing aid for the victims, as well as searching for suspects right now.
All right, primary day canceled, as you see. We're going to recap and show you the picture, show you the videotape of this day as it began this morning. You're looking live now, but we're going to, in a minute, rewind the tape and then show it to you as it started. Here's a tape of the second plane that went into tower number 2 at just about 9:20 this morning. It crashed into the 110-story tower, exploding into flames, sending debris everywhere. And that happened at about 9:20, the first plane having crashed into tower number 1 at 9 o'clock.
40,000 people working between the two centers right now, and we only can imagine what's happening as far as buildings nearby. We have not heard too many reports from the other buildings in that area.
Here's
now you're
collapse.
looking at tape, from the collapse of the first tower, and not long after that, the collapse of the second tower.
About a half an hour later.
Again, children in the area, in the schools in that area, we are told are doing well. We're told they're fine. Of course, they're being held in those schools. Children from PS 89, PS 234 taken to PS 41. Kids from PS 150 taken to PS 3. They're not going anywhere until parents can come to get them. And frankly, folks, from what we're able to see, this could take quite a bit of time. And just now, the Associated Press reporting that a large plane, to reiterate what Cindy Hsu had brought us, a large plane crashed into western Pennsylvania. Officials at Somerset County Airport are confirming this. The AP report. We've also heard reports that there was a...
Yeah, there is a hijacked 767 out of Pittsburgh that is circling an airport in Northern Virginia. Not sure if it's Washington National Airport or Dulles Airport, which is now Reagan Airport. But that the authorities, of course, have a beat on that, but that we understand that that 767 out of Pittsburgh has been hijacked.
Let's refocus our attention, if we can, on the situation here in New York City. Lou Young joining us on the phone. Lou?
Well, we were just trying to get to City Hall a few moments ago. Walking down from Canal Street, everything, as you know, was completely blocked. Seas of people coming the other way, dumbfounded by the collapse of the first tower, and some of them covered with soot, many of them trying to just get out of town. City Hall, of course, was blocked off at that point because it was literally in the shadow or the potential fall zone of the second tower, which was at that point in danger of falling. We worked our way around to the south, trying to link up with some personnel, and we heard the warning that it was coming down. It seemed like it was just a panicked crowd running, and then the rumble began, and it was like an earthquake. The ground shaking. People took refuge in doorways, and then following that, an immense cloud of dust choking off the very air people were trying to breathe. It was very, very difficult. People are just dumbstruck at what has happened here. The police are trying to evacuate all of Lower Manhattan, and they're trying to control the crowds, but there are far too few of them in many instances, and tempers are wearing thin. Some of them are exhausted. Some people have collapsed with exhaustion, and the scream of the sirens moving back and forth to the disaster scene is constant here. This is like nothing we've ever seen before.
You said it, Lou. Exactly where are you again?
We're at Duane and Greenwich. I'm using a shop phone here because all the cells are out, and our communication equipment that we normally use is simply not functioning because of what's happened.
We understand the entire city is in a state of gridlock. People are in a state of shock. Mouths are gaping open because this is a site that you never expected to see. The U.S. State Department has been evacuated. The United Nations has been evacuated. The White House has been evacuated. Capitol has been evacuated. The Treasury Department. Also, we might have mentioned Sears Tower in Chicago
sure,
has been evacuated because of this, and of course Los Angeles landmarks as well.
And then most recently, we're just having the reports now that large plane crashing in western Pennsylvania, about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. Lou, stay with us as long as you can. Michael O'Looney joining us now on the set out here to give us a little further insight. Michael?
Well, Michael, maybe we can just talk about some of the local things. Again, all off-duty firemen are being asked to report to duty. The New York City public schools are in a lockdown. We've been talking about those two schools, PS 89 and PS 234. The students there are being walked to PS 41, which is at 116 West 11th Street. The parents can pick them up there if they can get there. The phones, as you probably know by now, are overloaded in the city as people are trying to get through to find out about their loved ones. 40 to 50,000 people work in those two towers, and 200,000 people pass through there on an average day. Just a catastrophe there. As we know, part of the Pentagon has collapsed after an apparent car bomb there. All the bridges and tunnels are closed into and out of the city. Primary day has been canceled by the Board of Elections, and the FAA has shut down all aircraft takeoffs nationwide.
Okay, that wraps that up.
Let's, if we can we bring Jim Smith back into the fold here? He's provided us live pictures this morning, and he told us earlier about the U.S. fighter jets over New Jersey. And Jim, to corroborate your story, we have confirmation that, in fact, that is the case, that fighters are over Bergen County right now.
Yeah, Michael, we have been in contact with those F-16 fighters. They have been flying over the area. I'm just going to talk with my pilot, Ed Baker, for 1 second. He has a little bit more on what's going on. Eddie, all right, we understand there are military aircraft in the area, and every aircraft in the area is being scrutinized. As we heard earlier, no planes are being allowed to take off. Nationwide, all planes that are in flight in this area, in this region, are being checked out thoroughly, and once those aircraft are removed from the area, they will not be allowed to take off at all. Virtual no-fly zone, no aircraft within any distance of Manhattan at this time.
That's completely understandable.
Jim, we know you're about 5-6 miles away from downtown Manhattan, but from your vantage point, what update, if any, can you give us on what you're seeing along the streets there?
Well, Michael, we can tell you that some of the smoke, dust, and debris is starting to clear out. Earlier, we were unable to see anything on the lower half of Manhattan. We are currently looking towards the Battery Park area, and we could see some buildings now becoming visible that we were unable to see earlier. We have noticed a lot of boats heading away from the lower Manhattan area, boats that were possibly down at the ferry terminal near Battery Park, or also along the west side, the lower west side. Now we can tell you that the smoke itself is drifting out towards Brooklyn and Queens. We can see one line of smoke that extends clear out to pretty much Coney Island at this time. But as we mentioned earlier, some of the buildings that were covered completely earlier now becoming somewhat visible towards the lower west side of Manhattan.
We should remind people that are trying to get information that the phone lines, as you'd imagine, have been overwhelmed. And Jim, still word that travel into and out of the city completely restricted.
Yeah, that's correct. All of the bridges and tunnels have been shut down. We have noticed that not only the Hudson River crossings, the Port Authority crossings, but many of the city crossings. The Verrazano Bridge is shut down. The Bayonne Bridge is shut down as well, and we can just urge people to stay away from the city at any cost. Do not try to go anywhere near Manhattan because of all this emergency response that is needed to get in there and do what they need to do.
Sure. Battery Park City, of course, highly, not only the financial district and employees working there, but there's a highly residential area too. A lot of apartment buildings in Battery Park City. That's primarily what it consists of, and you got to worry about those people as well. We're efforting videotape from the ground. These are going to be, when you get ready to see them, they're going to be fresh pictures, unedited pictures of course, people running, rescue crews trying to help, and we want to warn you that we have not been able to see them, and you'll be seeing them live as they happen. But again, you're looking at, okay, let's go ahead and roll that tape. Oh, this is tape of the initial explosion of World Trade Center 1 on your left side of your screen. And that's the collapse there earlier today, about 10 o'clock of World Trade Center 1.
Yeah, very difficult
Tower
to keep track of time in these types of events. However, we can tell you, of course, that the first crash happening before 9, the second one 18 minutes later, and then, of course, a third explosion and collapse of one tower, followed by an explosion of another. Now, here is that unedited tape.
People covered in soot, in debris, screaming, in shock, no doubt. Firefighters covered in soot, debris that, of course, is traveling for miles.
The two towers, 110 stories tall each, and as Michael O'Looney reported a moment ago, 40 to 50,000 people working in those towers every day.
A national alert. All federal buildings in Washington, D.C. have been evacuated, and of course they're trying to evacuate all the buildings in lower Manhattan, no doubt. All firefighters, off-duty firefighters have been called, and you're looking at incredible dirt